Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Lemokey L5 HE8K, a gaming magnetic switches keyboard, to say it in some way. So I'm pretty much a beginner when it comes to high-end peripherals, especially when it comes to keyboard and mouse. I've always been curious about that, and Lemokey actually offered to send me over a sample to do a review. So take this like a perspective from a normie, a very hardcore gamer, but not a super competitive gamer. And as always, all opinions are my own. Alright, so here's the package. I dropped it on my table, very heavy package actually. This package, you'll find it, the Lemokey L5 HE8K. It's a very nice box. And basically the keyboard is 2 kilograms or 1.8 kilograms, something like that. That's why when I dropped it onto the table, I felt bad for my table. So when you open it up, you'll find basically this cable that has a USB-C to A adapter in case you have USB-C on your computer in the back of your computer, which I found very useful. Then you get a couple screwdrivers because you can tear down this keyboard and customize it, which again, nice to have. And then for the gasket, if you want to mount your keyboard differently, you also have the screws and the rubber over there. Then we got this tool to remove the keycaps easily, and also you're able to remove the switches themselves. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Then when it comes to the keyboard itself, it's a 75% keyboard. That means that it doesn't have an numpad, basically. And well, this keyboard, as you can see, is basically full metal. You can see my handprints all over there, but it's aluminium, has very good rubber feet, and you can detach the cable. You have 3 speeds, and it's a very heavy keyboard, again 1.8 kilos. And here you can hear the sound of the keys. Let's do a quick sound test. As you can see here, the cable is detachable, so let's plug it in. And it has 3 modes. That's for the polling rate: 3000 Hz, 4000 Hz, or 8000, which is the fastest one. And as I said at the beginning, when it comes to material quality, very good quality. It feels by the weight, and it's all metal, but the keys are plastic, so keep that in mind. And when I was talking about removing keys, you can actually do it very easily with the provided tool. Just pop it right out, and you have the keycap that you can replace with whatever keycap that you want. And then you can also remove the actual switch, which I never had a keyboard that could do that in the past. This is the magnetic switch that the keyboard uses. Again, completely removable. You can do whatever you want with it. Since I'm a complete noob when it comes to high-end peripherals, as I said at the beginning, this will be from that perspective. I'm going to be going over all the software features and what would I use it for when it comes to typing, gaming, and the other special features that this keyboard has, especially when it comes to the how quick it responds, the actuation distance, and the customizability of all of it. Okay, so now with the keyboard at hand, quote unquote, I put the rainbow color, and I wanted to show you the software because I found it very interesting. So instead of installing some software, you actually just use a web app. Once it connects, you'll see 3 profiles already pre-made for you. The key map, you can remap all the keys, the lighting, macros, firmware updates, all that good stuff. So let's start with the HE mode. Here is basically what you want to do with the keys. In this case, it says 1.7. And if you look at this, is the actuation distance. On profile 1, I have the actuation distance at 0.10 millimeters. So they detect when I press the key at which distance I'm going. In this case, I'm telling the keyboard, hey, When I move my key 0.10 millimeters down, activate the key. For typing, this is not fantastic because sometimes I graze a key by accident and it detects it. In this case, I'm at 0.10 on all the keys. I use this one for gaming actually. So let me choose W. And for W, I can show you here the trigger in real time. So as I'm moving my finger, yeah, I mean, as soon as I graze the key, it detects it already. So at this distance, it already detects W. And if I go all the way down, it can detect 3.35 millimeters. So keys are, as you can see, as soon as I just graze it, it detects my input. This is crazy when it comes to latency. I cannot really know if it's like it says here 8000 hertz. I don't have software actually to check that. But this blew my mind when I saw it, when I was checking this out. Again, I was trying typing with the minimum actuation distance, in this case 0.10. Anyway, I was grazing some of the keys and it blew my mind that it actually worked like that. But you can do that for each individual key. It's a magnetic switch, so that's how it works. For each individual key, you can change the actuation distance. You can also choose all the keys and put, I don't know, 1.69 millimeters. You hit submit. Now all the keys are at 1.69. Maybe for WASD, you want a shorter distance. I don't know. And then if we go to the trigger demo, let's choose W once again, maybe control, so you can actually see what I'm doing. And again, the activation is at 169. So when I'm here in the green, this means that the key is not being actuated. The keyboard doesn't say, oh, he hit control. It's actually, again, the keyboard knows I'm at this distance, but it won't activate the key until I go down here. So again, for typing, I think being in the middle is a better idea. So in this case, I have 3 profiles. The first one is as default. I'll put all of them at 0.10 millimeters. But again, it's very, very accurate when it comes to that. On profile 2, I put it at 170 for typing. And on profile 3, this looks weird, but since we have this actuation distance, you can use that to emulate a controller. So super quick, gamepad analog. You can actually bind keys to gamepad controls. Joystick demo is just to see if how much of an analog feel is getting. So I'm hitting W. So in a game, for example, if you want to walk around, like if you're using a controller, you can walk slowly, a little bit faster, or way faster. This is a fantastic idea. I've seen analog keyboards in the past on Kickstarter, and this, just with having a magnetic keys, is able to do this, which I think is fantastic. But there are some issues with it. I'm going to tell you why in a moment. One key, multiple commands. Basically, you can tell the keyboard, okay, on the key that you chose, when you touch the key, it's W. And then when you get to the bottom of the key is, I don't know, left shift. So as I hit in the key, the character moves. And when I get to the bottom of the key, it presses shift. And the character basically will run. You can do that for any of the keys. So you can put multiple things depending on how deep you press the key. Up to 4 things, which my brain wouldn't be able to process it, but you can do it. Then you get this snap action. On this one you can set up 2 keys so that when both keys are pressed at the same time, you can have the one press deeper, trigger, and the other reset. So as you're pressing one of the keys, if you're pressing both at the same time, as you're releasing one, the other one will activate. Or last key priority. 2 keys can be set up so when both keys are pressed at the same time, the last trigger key triggers at the same time as you let the other one go. So what would be my main issue with this? Well, first of all, I like these 3 profiles, but it's not 100% clear on how to swap from one to the other. But if you hover the mouse over here, it says press FN and P at the same time. And let's press Shift, X, or Z to change between all of those profiles. In this case, if I hit FN.P and then Z is profile 1, X is profile 2, and Z is profile 3. As I let go of the FN key and P, it changes. So when I'm typing, I use profile 2, and when I'm playing a game, as an example, I don't know, ready or not, I want the keys to be super sensitive. Then on profile 3, this is basically like a controller analog thing that some games have issues with it, but I'm going to be doing a quick demo to show you this because it's super interesting. Another example that I remember now is on a racing game. You could remap the keys to be this gamepad style and use this to accelerate and this to brake. So as you're pressing the key, the car will accelerate more, and as you are going, letting it go, it'll start slowing down the car, like if it was a trigger, right trigger and left trigger on an analog trigger on a controller. This is probably the main thing I would use it personally, because on racing games on PC, it's either W to accelerate or S to decelerate, so it's either 1 or 0. In this case, you have multiple values in between, so you can accelerate at your heart's content. Apart from changing the keys, you have 4 layers, 0, 1, 2, and 3. On 1, as an example here, we have that tab is RGB toggle. That means that if I press on the FN key and hit tab, it'll turn off the RGB. And you can do that with basically all of these. Nice to have layers so you know what's behind it. You can basically put whatever you want here, even function keys. So you hit FN and you have all of this up here. And again, all of this is customizable. Then you have the other layers even below 0 and 1. I don't think you'll need more of these, but who knows? It's nice to have. Then when it comes to backlight, I think this is very self-explanatory. You can control the brightness. You can control the effect to have nothing, to have a solid color. In this case, I want yellow, or yeah, this weird reddish color. I personally like green on this keyboard due to the escape key being like that. It can be a breathing color, and you can put at which speed. And same with the band spiral. You can cycle between all colors, all the rainbow keyboard stuff that you want at whichever speed and brightness. Is pretty bright, actually. So in this case, I'm keeping it like this and lowering the speed, but personally, I like to have it on green in this case. And there's a decorate light. And what is decorate light? Well, if you move the keyboard around, the decorate light is this awesome light going around the front of the keyboard. It looks fantastic. Well, you can customize it as well. With the reflections on the table, it looks fantastic. You can put it breathing as well. You can put it to be a hue cycle. Let's put it faster so it changes colors. Or horse race, which looks pretty cool. Sorry about the light. If you have, yeah, it's a little bit fast. So you can lower it and you can increase the brightness as well or turn it off completely. Personally, I think this is a nice touch when it comes to design. I think it looks fantastic. And it's brighter than the keys. So if you're in a dark room, this is great. This is fantastic because you can see it on the table, and if you have something in front, it will be illuminated by the keyboard as well. So great design. Then you can do macros, and those macros can also be applied to each of the individual layers, which, I mean, I don't do macros personally. Generally, I don't do them. You can import and export them, but you can do a lot of actions with macros like in other keyboards. But here, the keyboard doesn't care what you do. It'll do it. You start the recording and you can make a macro and map it to a key maybe, or a function key over here in this layer. So the customizability here is absolutely crazy. And you got your classic firmware update. That for the firmware update, actually, I needed to remove my spacebar and press a small button to keep the keyboard like, it's like a CMOS reset to basically flash the new firmware. I updated from 1.0.0 to 1.0.1, and they fixed, this was a few days ago, 22 days ago actually, fixed lighting effects anomalies, electrical buzzing noise, spacebar double tap issues, and knob responsiveness problems. So I did it. There's a perfectly easy to follow guide to make it work on how to do this safely. Then you also have a key test. So you can see if the keys work, basically, and it tells you how many times you press them. This is nice to have. And then your classic bug report and everything. And on the advanced mode, you can select the polling rate, so how many times the keyboard detects an input. The maximum it goes is 8,000 Hertz. I cannot test this claim. I don't have the software to do this, so I'll have to take their word for it. A crazy amount of refreshes that the keyboard does. There's also a slider that goes from 1 to 3 physically. This is to go from 1000 Hertz to 2000 and then 8000. That turns off the lights for some reason. I guess that's for speed reasons, but you can turn on the light going back here. So I don't get why they did it. So for this first example, we got Batman Arkham Knight, and you might ask why a third person game? Well, this is for the analog key test. So we're going to start with the profile that I use for typing. So the typing profile tells the key after 50% of pressing the key, you detect something. So if I press W very slowly, it starts detecting it halfway through the key. So as you can see, if I do this, the game barely, I'm barely pressing the key. So this is for typing. It's not that responsive, but if I hit the profile that I use that the keys detect my inputs at 0.01 millimeters or something like that, a very, very crazy thing. As soon as I graze the key, any minor movement, the game detects it right away. It's crazy how responsive it is with the minimum actuation distance. I mean, just look at this. I barely touch the key, barely any movement. I'll try to zoom in to show you. But when it comes to responsiveness, it's insanely insanely responsive. I mean, it's insane. I cannot believe that. I mean, just look at this. How little I press W and Batman starts moving. So you'll notice this even on, well, in first-person shooters, this will be a game changer, at least in my opinion. When it comes to the third profile, the one where I put an analog stick, basically it takes W as an analog, so it detects it as a controller. If I press it further, Batman walks faster. I love this feature. Unfortunately, it doesn't work perfectly when it comes to, not to the keys themselves, but with the software implementation. Because basically what I told the keyboard was, okay, W means analog stick forward. So the game thinks I'm using a controller. And for this to work properly, you basically need the game to have the controller to work at the same time as the mouse. So when I'm moving the mouse, it spins the camera. So again, I move the mouse and it spins the camera, but when I walk, the game thinks I have a controller. So if I move the mouse, it barely does anything. And if I move it like this, the mouse is correct. But as soon as I start using this analog control, yeah, the mouse just doesn't respond. That's because the game is jumping between, oh, you're using a controller, oh, you're using a mouse and keyboard. There are some games that actually support this, very few. I don't know exactly which ones. But for racing games, I think this is fantastic because I usually don't use my mouse in a racing game unless I'm looking around. Usually just WASD to turn the car. The one that has 0.01 millimeters or something like that, I barely graze the key. I responds right away. I mean, just look at that. I'm barely touching the key. You can also just put this of the actuation distance on WASD, but this makes it insanely responsive. I mean, with that cable going directly to the PC, I think there's no way you're not going to feel more responsiveness than this. I mean, it's stupidly responsive. Let's try this with the spacebar. I will barely touch it. There you go. This is the full press, and this is barely moving it. I mean, again, just responds as soon as as it moves 0.1 millimeters. Again, for typing, I don't think it's fantastic because sometimes by accident I graze over a key. So yeah, this blows my mind on how responsive, especially, that's my main thing with this keyboard. How responsive it is ridiculous. Okay, the keyboard is great and all, but what about the price? This is basically the most important. Well, on March 27th, this was successfully funded on Kickstarter with $250,000 of the 10,000 goal, 1,000 backers. You can still do a late pledge to still get a pre-order for the keyboard by following the affiliate link in the description. You get the keyboard and support the channel at the same time by letting them know that you come from here. So at least for me, normie that is not into this sort of thing, I'm not an expert on keyboards, nor a pro gamer or anything like that. $200 is a lot of money for a keyboard, especially without a numpad. Again, this is for gaming, for more of a pro gamer mindset. It includes the fully assembled keyboard, so you don't have to do anything. You receive it as you see it on my table. So again, for someone that is not into the professional custom keyboard scene, to me $200 is very expensive, but you get a fully assembled keyboard, very high quality keycaps, except in the transparent keys, especially the spacebar. Sounds like a little hollow, doesn't feel fantastic. But the other keys that are not transparent feel fantastic. There's also a knob for the volume and mute, which is funny. It's a plastic thing, but I really like how it feels. The materials themselves is very heavy. It's a super heavy keyboard, which usually means quality. The body is entirely made of metal, and again, it's pretty damn heavy. With one hand I can hold it, yeah, but just the fact of being full metal doesn't always say it's quality. But this is metal, the bottom is metal, this part is metal, and again, feels very heavy. And with the rubber feet plus the weight, it doesn't move around your desk at all by accident, like it happened with me with other keyboards that are less heavy. At least when it comes to gaming, I think that is super helpful, just because of the fact that your keyboard won't be moving around your table, even if you have an uneven surface. Again, all the features that I told you a moment ago about the magnetic switches, then the response times, and basically the dynamic wrapper triggering. Those are awesome features, don't get me wrong, especially the analog mode. I found it super interesting, especially again for walking in a single player game or for accelerating a racing game. I think that's great. It makes it more analog like it should be. But if you're someone like me, more like a normal person, you're here for the super high quality aluminum body, the keys, except in the spacebar and all those, and how responsive, stupidly responsive it is. Again, I just graze keys at the minimum actuation point and the games respond right away. You can remove the entire key very easily, you can change the keycaps, you can deassemble the entire keyboard with the included tools. So if you're looking for a very high quality keyboard, at least when it comes to build quality and responsiveness, this is the best one that I've seen in my entire life. Again, just grazing a key and the keyboard detecting it blows my mind, and in games you can notice it right away, especially at higher than 6 FPS. In Counter-Strike 2 I think it was the most obvious, but personally, again, as a non-super competitive gamer, I wouldn't buy this keyboard for $200. I'll get it if I was a pro gamer or someone that is super competitive that wants the absolute lowest input latency when touching a key. Because again, super sensitive. I think it's fantastic what they did here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did taking a look at this keyboard that really surprised me. Thanks again to Lemokey for providing this sample for me to review, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys, thanks for watching.